Alright, one of the things I want to go over in this tutorial is navigating and file management a little bit, because that's tricky to do. So over here on the left you can see there's this application manager, and then scenario manager is up here. Application manager is pretty much the hierarchy tree that you see right here. So if for some reason this thing's not here, so if you make this go away, you can get it back by coming to here, double clicking this, and it comes back up. Alright, so that's how you get back to the tree. And then within this tree there's the scenario manager, which is you just click on which scenario you want, and you can also like add a child or a sibling. A child means that you're making a new group, and everything in the group has some of the attributes of the parent, and then you have to go into each one and change it a little bit to make it different. So and so that's some of what you have here. And then this is already preset up, but they did it by doing that. They did add child, add sibling, and that's how they did that. So what I've done in this model is I've run the 2019, and I've also gone into this one right here that's called LRTP, and I've run the long range plan for 2050 as the plan stood in 2019. Actually I think I might go and run this one, fiscally constrained. Nah, never mind. I don't know what I'm going to do exactly, but I'll tell you by the end about where this 2050 is going to be. But anyway, there's inputs and other things. These keys, the keys come from this spot. So if you come here to like run this 2019, it'll pop up this thing, and then all of these values right here are stored over here as the keys. So that's just a clue. I'm not going to explain very much about that, but that's where this stuff is coming from. And if you really just need some help and can't figure it out, there's a little question mark over here, Cubase, and it'll pop this open. I think there's probably a PDF file that's connected to this, but you'd have to research it. And this is good, but I don't think it's as good as the YouTube videos, but it is helpful to help get a clue about some things. Alright, so the next thing I wanted to show you was how this model sets up directories and stuff. So if I go, let me find where alright, so here I have a Windows Explorer, and you can see that in the Windows Explorer I've got Dixie version 3, and it's got notes, inputs, model scripts, and scenarios, which is pretty close to what you see over here. Inputs, it doesn't say anything about scripts, but this is where the scripts are stored, is in here, and they're all like subcategories, and then they have usually weird names that are tied to the names in the tree, in this tree over here. But then there's also this thing called scenarios. Where did that go? Back out here, scenarios. Okay, so right here under scenarios is the 2019, and then it has output files that were part of input processing, that were part of all of these different things, mode choice or distribution, final assignment. So the final assignment, so in previous videos I've showed how to make a VPR file, and that VPR file is right here. I called it default VPR, and then all of these O1s and stuff, that's just temporary files that are created because I have the file open. But one thing you notice is that it's 2019, and where's the other scenarios? I can see them. I've got all these tons of scenarios, set up to run, but they are not. The only one that's actually there is the 2019. When you come over here, there's not even a directory structure for the rest of them. So how does a directory structure get created? So let's look at that. Okay, so back to here. So the very first thing that happens is you go to input processing. So you double click in there. Any orange box, big orange box, means there's more things deeper down that have to happen before the next orange box can happen. So this one has a file input check, and if I go into there, then that's the end because there's no more orange boxes. But I can go up to parent, and this gets to here. So one of the things I want to look at, the very first thing it says is prepare scenario folder structure, create. So if I open this .s file up, so all of the code that runs the entire model is stored in these .s files, and sometimes in block files, the way that WFARS or the way that this model is set up. So this is kind of a DOS command set. These aren't really functions that are part of Cube. That's what the star means. The star means call a system command from DOS, basically, and look for the scenario directory as defined in the key. So the key will be over here. It's in there somewhere. And then it says look in the scenario directory for this directory, and if you don't see it, then make in the scenario directory, make that directory. So it does that for all of this, and it's building an entire folder structure in which to store all of the files. So you can create this for your own model to kind of organize things so they all don't dump into one gigantic output folder and make a mess of things. So that's how that works. So let's go over here and test it. I'm going to go... Actually, I think I'll just run only this module. So if I go to parent, if I go to here and click run from here, then it should run the whole thing, or it runs run current group only. I'm not sure how it defines the current group. It could be everything that's on the window, or it could be what's selected. But one way I can get it to do what I want, I think, is I can go to here and say run current, or when I'm in here, I think I can hit run current group. And it's been a long time since I've done some of this stuff, so I don't actually know very well what will happen. Okay, so you can see if not exists scenario, it's making all of those directories right now. So it's definitely working, and it's doing whatever is in this group to do. So this is a one way that you can run parts of the model without having to run the whole thing. Please check this thing. So it looks like it didn't work. Didn't run Python. I'll have to figure that out, and give me a minute. Okay, so I figured out some of the things that went wrong here. So the error, it opens up a PRN file. That's what this is. And you just scroll to the bottom looking for some kind of error code or information code. Right here it says failed to run Python correctly. So this model does do some GIS work on the fly. A lot of them don't, but this one does. And so it says please check or try to run this thing. This is what it tried to run right here. And so when I go and look at this, I can see that I have D, and then it says Python 2.7. I don't have a Python 2.7 on this D drive. On the C drive I do, and this is because I organized my drives a little bit differently. So here's a 10.8, and here's the Python that I need, which goes with, has the Cube functions and ArcGIS that goes with this. So that's the mistake. And how did I make that mistake? Well, when I was back here setting up this run, it's asking for it says, do you want to run these Python scripts? And so I said yes, but I put the wrong location. So really, I do have this Python script, but it's stored under C. So anyway, I needed to change that to C. So I did do that, and next it says, okay, I'm going to now try to run this thing so I can double check that this thing exists once I can find Python. So let me look at this. O1 update link. So the file is there. I think this got created as a part of trying to run the model. So that file is there. So that's how that works. So I'm going to close this now. I'm going to try to run again. Okay, so this time it appears to be working because this black window is not something I got before. It says it's importing ArcPy. So yeah, it looks to be running. Okay, one of the things that bothered me when I first opened this model was that I would go to this window and try to open up the master network, and when I did, all I got was this stick figure with a bunch of uncolored lines, and I'm like, well, darn it, I wanted to see like a bunch of colors with it so that I didn't have to set it all up by myself. And so I did later set up all of this by myself, and I've shown you the default VPR file that I created for that. But unfortunately, it only creates it for the one scenario that I'm in, the 2019. And if I go to run 2050, then these colors aren't going to be there. And that's sucky and kind of a problem. So is there an easy way to fix that? Well, one way to fix that is when I went down into this input processing and opened up this create scenario script, which is this one that popped open that I showed you before. Right near the very bottom is some code that I wrote many years ago that has been commented out because it caused an error probably, and whoever was editing this model didn't know what to do about it, so they just left it out. Well, let me show you what it means. So I'm going to uncomment this, and it says if not exist this file, this thing called default VPR within this location, then I'm going to go copy this file like this that says IO, and I'm going to copy it into this location, input processing, and I'm going to give it the name default VPR. So that may not work right now if these paths are not available. So let's find out if the paths are available. Okay, so now I'm in the right location. I'm under the BY 2019 input processing. I can scroll all up and down here and I don't see anything that says default VPR. So that means if not exist this thing, which is true because it's not there, then go and copy one out of this location. So now I need to go to this location and see if it's actually there. So back to this location, and I'm going to go up to inputs and 3 highway, and I'm looking for underscore VPR files. So that is not there. I can create it. So I'm just going to say underscore VPR files. So that's how they spelled that. And then I'm going to go to, so then I would need to have a file called default IO-VPR. So there isn't anything like that. And I might be able to find it. Let me look. Alright, I found an old one that's associated with the Salt Lake City model, not the St. George model. So I put it in here, and it probably won't display correctly, but who knows what'll happen. It might display something. So I'm gonna just go ahead and test it. And so now I've put a file in there. Now I've got this thing that says make directory. I've uncommented this thing, so I just need to save the file. It'll say, do you want to save it? Yes, I do. And now I'm going to go ahead and run. Alright, so now it's doing all of that if not exist stuff. Once that's finished, I could it'll just keep going, but I don't need to keep running it because I already ran the part that I wanted to run. So what I'm going to do now is go and check to see if the files that if there's now a default VPR in this input processing place, which is what I tried to make. So there is one. Okay, and it was, yeah, it's from 2009, so that's a long time ago, this particular set of color schemes. So it's probably not going to work all that well, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so it does have some colors, and I'm going to take a look at the no TG in here. So this is the file that I opened, but one of the things that it doesn't have is a true shape. So if I go to here and add true shape, I just need to go up to the inputs directory, down into highway, go into VPR, no, not VPR files, GIS, links, all done. And then I have to go to GIS tools, true shape, and there you go. So now I've got everything set up, and it has some colors that are so now this is looking at the 2019 scenario. If I do functional type, then this is the color set that's set up for that. If I do I just want to see only the one-way streets, whatever road is defined as a one-way. And what I need to do now is I need to file, save, VPR. Okay, I'm really going to save default VPR because this it recognizes, and it's going to then say, so I'm going to go ahead and check everything. There's only one thing, the true shape network, that's associated with that, but that stores the true shape network with it. And all right, so this is the default VPR file that I just made, but it's not in the right place for long-term storage or to help fix anything. So I have to go back to this VPR files, and I need to put it right here, and I'm going to call this one dot SLC because that's where it came from, and I'm going to change the name of this one to just be IO. And so this is now the file that I want to copy whenever I make a new scenario. So that should help that appear there. Another thing that was a problem was the loaded network, the one that comes out at the end, is also not available for other scenarios. So if I come here to this 2019 and look for the file, here's default VPR saved earlier today. It's the only VPR in this thing, so that's the one that I want. And I'm going to go now, I've copied that, I'm going up to here, I'm going to place this in here, and I'm going to call this one default underscore AO because this is the final assignment output. So AO means assignment output. This is input processing output. That's what the IO means in the AO. So then if I go over to Cube and look at that script that was here. Yep, so it says it's going to see if there's already one there. If not, then it's copying from this file AO, which is the one I just made, into the location called default.vpr. That should be good. So now if I come to a 2050 run and try to run, I'll just try to run 2050. Okay, so it's going through the whole if not exist thing, and once it's done, then I'm going to kill that. Alright, so now I come over here And there's a new scenario that's been, at least the directory structure has been created for it, because that's what I just barely did. And I ran this one, so here's the whole directory structure. I'm going to see if there's a default VPR. There is. And the next one I want to look at is under highway network, highway. So there's a default VPR as well. Highway summary does not have a default VPR. Copy and paste. And I'm looking for, this time the directory is going to be called highway summary. I'm actually going right here, and it says, okay, so now I've looked here, but I'm also going to look in a subdirectory of there for highway summary. If I don't find it, then I'm going to copy the same AO, because it's probably the same, and I'm going to put that under this spot. So, all right, so now I'm going to close that and hit save. Then I'm going to run this again. I wonder if it'll run if I just double click it. Yeah, it does. Okay, so I didn't have to hit the run button. You can sometimes just run individual calls or individual run programs. So now let me go find out if it did it. So I go back up here to my 2050 and I go into highway summary, and ta-da, I have a default.vpr there now. This is good. So now it should be able to open the file once it's created. I haven't actually run the 2050 scenario yet, so there's nothing there to open, but once I do run it, then the colors will be there available.